cattle and thy streams that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not murder or kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's.
All right. Yeshua, please be seated. Barakata Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Asherah, Natanau, Pariya Gapan, Tuara Amun, La Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ath Yasha'al. English translation: Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, that give to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it, to Yahweh in the name of Yahushai with Israel. I model upon you, are you Ashlam? Sin face Jerusalem. Repeat the Hebrew only. Barakatah Yahweh, Haggadah, Rakaram, Abiyo, Manawa'ah, Aliyah, Malak, Sho, Shemayim, Barataza, Wako, Dobayim, Kayayim, Wagum, Amashiach, Mayahawa, Alawanawa, Ahabnawa, Hapala, Yahaitaza, Yahushai, Zakarnawa, Yahweh, Batazawan, Aimka, Yasha'ala, Aizonawa, Bana, Wasap, Yasha'ala, O, Nanawa, Yamyan, Aitha, Kaiwamium, Akudam, Babakushai, Shalat, Maika'ala, Batazawadak, Alahayim, La, Maganawa, Wapanawa, Rashimor, Alnawa, Baikor, Shalat, Aroka, Shaw, Yahushai, Lanawa, Lalamadnawa, Rabium, Kakama, Tabawana, Wada Shaw, the Baka, Bahasham, Yahushai, Tawada, Tamyad, Baiwulam, Aman. English translation: Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth and all things living. And also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor, Yahushai. Remember us, Yahweh, favorably, your people Israel. Help us build in that God of Israel. Most high, we beg you right now, like the days of old. Please send Michael and righteous powers and angels to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahushai to us to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahushua, I thank you always and forever. So be it. Repeat the Hebrew only. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua, that gives to us the law. Ba'arakta Yahweh,
Barakatah Yahweh,
Ba'ashem Yahushai,
Ba'ashem Yahushai,
Asherah,
Asherah,
Nathanawa,
Nathanawa,
Athawarak.
Athawarak.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, that gives to us the light to see. Ba'arakta Yahweh,
Barakatah Yahweh,
Ba'ashem Yahushai,
Ba'ashem Yahushai,
Asherah,
Asherah,
Nathanawa,
Nathanawa,
Awar,
Awar,
La'arak.
La'arak.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, that gives to us the ram song to call the people. Ba'arakta Yahweh,
Barakatah Yahweh,
Ba'ashem Yahushai,
Ba'ashem Yahushai,
Asherah,
Asherah,
Nathanawa,
Nathanawa,
Quran,
Quran,
Ayo,
Ayah,
Lakara,
Lakara,
Ha'aim.
Ha'aim.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, that gives to us the olive oil to anoint Israel. Ba'arakta Yahweh,
Barakatah Yahweh,
Ba'ashem Yahushai,
Ba'ashem Yahushai,
Asherah,
Asherah,
Nathanawa,
Nathanawa,
Hasheman,
Hasheman,
Zayaf,
Zayah,
Lamashat,
Lamashat,
Yasha Allah.
Yasha Allah.
Yeshua, please be seated. Shalom, Yashala. Welcome to Hayashawala Kanas. My name is Kahan Pukwai, and Hayashawala Kanas stands for the Congregation of Israel. Today is a Sabbath service, as regularly scheduled according to what we just read in Exodus, the 20th chapter. The Sabbath day is the Sabbath of the Most High, right? A rest day that we should come and rest our mind in the Most High's law, statutes, and commandments, and come before Him for His great creation. All right, so today, for the service, we will be reading in the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 9 and chapter 10. And this is very important subject that we're going to cover in chapter 9 and chapter 10, where Sirach, in his observation in the culture that he lives in, he gave us his advice on dealing with women, especially the men are being put in the center of the subject here in an androcentric sense, where men is the center of attention, where we will be given advice on dealing with women. And keep also in mind that when we talking about women here in this chapter, we're not saying all women. All right, so let's to get that clear. And also, when we say women, we're not generalizing every woman, right? It's gonna be very descriptive in some of those scriptures that we're gonna read in Ecclesiastes chapter 9. So, from his viewpoint, we're gonna see that his wisdom and advice is timeless, right? As it says in, if we read, go to Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and 9. I'm gonna read that real fast. Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 9. Chapter 1. Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 9 read, "The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be. And that which is done is that which shall be done, and there's no new things under the sun. So this is speaking about the spirit, right? The spirit of the people that were doing things in the back in back then. Those are the same spirit that are here today, doing the same exact thing that they were doing back then. It's except the world is more populated. We occupy a large. We occupy the earth territory because we populated, right? And also wickedness has been more diverse, where we have more wicked men and more wicked women on earth. So we see wickedness multiply. So, but this is the same spirit that was back then, the same spirit that are here now, exercising the same actions that were exercised back then. So with that, we see that as we read, we're gonna see that his viewpoint on the advice that he's given, they are timeless, right? So there's no such thing that was back then and this is now. So everything that we're gonna read in Ecclesiasticus chapter 9 here, and the advice that we will be given in the first chapter concerning women, they are on point. And also we're linking up some scriptures to further edify what he said in those verses. Okay, so let's jump into Ecclesiastes chapter 9. All right, so that's why I said when I say women, I'm not referring to all women, just so that we clear when I don't have to keep going back saying it. So when I say women, keep in mind I'm not talking about all women. I'm talking about either in any case wicked women or righteous women, but I'm gonna be referring to women. All right, so let's get started. The first verse that we're gonna get started with is about Ecclesiasticus chapter 9. Let me know when you're ready. Got it? Okay, come on. It says, strive not. No. It says, be not jealous of the wife of thy bosom, and teach her not an evil lesson against thyself. So now if we have, or if anyone or any man has a wife, do not be jealous of her, right? Or you will teach her evil lessons or evil lesson to your own hurt. So what does that mean? So let's go into it. If you have a woman, you're constantly nagging her and being suspicious of her doing something, and as you know, women in general, right, in a general sense, are desirous of things, right? They tend to see and want the things that they see. If they see a nice house and you're driving with your woman in the car, she wants that house, right? Doesn't matter if you can afford it or not. She wants that house. A woman can never have enough pair of shoes. Mm-hmm. They see that shoe, even though they have a shoe, they want it, right? So they want things. So now by being jealous of her or overdoing it and accusing her of doing things that she may not be doing, that open up an avenue for her to want to experience things, maybe I should go out there and see what he feel about, right? Maybe there's something out there that he doesn't want me to have, right? So by doing that, you open up something that should not be there. So she may go out there and experience to your own hurt, right? By accusing her and make her think that she's doing something, or you're always suspicious that she might be doing something out there. Now that shows that you have some kind of fear, and then she might go out and exercise, right, to see what my husband is feel about. Maybe there's something that out there that I may desire. So what is it that he's so adamant about this, about that, right? Trying to hide me from getting what I want. So always desires of things. So they see nice things, and they are built like that, right? To be receivers, right? Women's are receivers, right? They like to get things, right? Things that they desire, they want to have it. And if you constantly on her and sometimes falsely accusing her or suspicious of doing something, maybe you have something to hide. So she might want to go out there and experience what you don't want her to have. All right. So when it says here, be not jealous over the wife of thy bosom, and teach her not in evil lessons against thyself. So be confident, right? If you have your woman, be confident. Of course, especially nowadays, relationships are very rocky on the way they get started to begin with, right? So that's another story. So now let's go to a few verses. Let's go to Proverbs 31 and 11. Right? When I say be confident, that's something that I shouldn't even have to say, because before you get into that relationship with with each other, you have to actually know who you were getting involved with, who each other were getting involved with, what situation that you guys were getting involved with. So from the get-go, that should have been settled, right? So you know who you're dealing with, right? So Proverbs 31 and 11, I'll read that real quick. Proverbs 31:11 reads, the heart of her husband do safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. For example, in the same sense I said they are receivers, right? And they desire to have things. If they want a car, they cannot afford it, but they want it, right? And meanwhile, the man being pressured and go out and get it, right? But a wife that is righteous, in verse 11, let me read it again. The heart of a husband does safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. So now you go out there and work 2-3 jobs to get that car, right? 2-3 jobs to get that car to satisfy her, knowing that you cannot afford it, right? So a good woman would not pressure a husband to do that. She will have desires, but she will weigh out their means, their financial means, whether they can afford it or not. Or if she really want it, they gonna come to an agreement where they can work something out. As they mature financially and grow financially, she can afford it, or they can afford it together without any pressure being put on the family, right? Some of the women put pressure on the man, which in afford, and he ended up working 2-3 jobs, right, to keep the payment on that property, the house. For example, in a sense of newlywed. You just started out in life, and you want to move in a neighborhood where you want to buy a house that costs $500,000 or $500,000, knowing that you cannot afford it, but because of desire, you want it. And then you put them under pressure, and you go out and get it, and next thing you know, 2-3 jobs working just to meet the mortgage. You cannot even enjoy the house for a moment because you're always out working, try to, meet the payment so you don't lose that house. So a lot of pressure is being put on the men, right? So it says, righteous woman would not put that kind of pressure on her husband, right? In verse 11, again, the heart of her husband doeth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. So he doesn't need to go out there and hustle as, to the extreme, right? Just to satisfy her. So she would not put that kind of pressure on the man. All right, so let's go to verse 2. Hansama.
So when you look at it also, it says, be not jealous over the wife of thy bosom. Going into that same vein, you may have it where a man is jealous over his wife, meaning, he feels a way like he's putting her way up on a pedestal, and everything that she do, he's jealous over her that he might lose her.
Right.
So what happens is he goes out of his way for her, and then he allows her to do certain things that she really shouldn't be doing.
Right.
Right. That's why I says, don't teach her an evil lesson. Right. Because in your jealousy, she want to go out, in the world. She was going to go out all night long and hang out with her friends. Right. But because you fear that she may leave you, you allow her to do it.
Right.
So now what is that doing? That's teaching her that now she holds a certain position in the relationship where she can go and do what she wants.
Right.
All the while, what that's doing is now teaching her an evil lesson against you. Because now she don't respect your authority. Now she's not hearing your word. Now when she want to go, you allowing it because you're jealous, because you like her so much and you want her to be with you so much that you allow these things to proliferate. Right. So that's what, and this is not so much, like the scriptures say, unto you, O men, are called. This is written to the perspective of the man. Not to say it's not about the woman. This is the man's rationale. Because like you said, it's going to come, you're going to find a righteous woman, you're going to find a wicked woman. Men, this is how you should think. Right. Whatever woman you got, this is the perspective that you should operate in. Don't allow yourself to be in this position where you're jealous over your wife and you're allowing certain things to go or happen or go on. And then what that really is doing is teaching her how she want to be. Right? And then that's really going against you, because if you're someone who's trying to uphold the standard, the principles, now she's teaching you to say, or you're teaching her, I can do what I really want. Because he's not going to say nothing. Right. You don't want me to, because if I say, I am, you don't want that to happen. So you're going to allow it to go. Right? So that's that mindset. You cannot be that weak that you're going to allow her, or you're going to be that jealous over her. Like she's so good, or she got this great job, or she got this, and you jealous over her to allow her to do anything like that you want.
So that's another perspective of looking at it, as Kahan Samak put it, right? So verse 2 now. Let's read verse 2. It says, give not thy soul unto a woman to set her foot upon thy substance. Right? So do not put yourself in a situation where you give your strength over to that woman. Here we are, you cannot afford it, but all your strength goes into working just to satisfy that woman. Right? Do not give all your strength, right? So you can't help it. Some women are very demanding. Right? So that again put pressure on the family, right? So if you want to keep your strength, do what you can do, right? In accordance with your wife. Right? And do not go overboard and overextend yourself where you cannot afford. Just because you let her have her way, or whatever she desire to have, here you are you let it happen, like Hansa Mark said. Right? You gotta put things in perspective, know that you the head. Okay, you can desire everything you want, but we're gonna pray the Most High and we're gonna live righteously, and the Most High will bless us where we can afford some of the things that you want, and I'll be okay to be able to do it. But to allow yourself to be put under pressure to do things outside of your means, right, and kill yourself is giving yourself over to women. All right, so he's gonna proceed to give us more advice on the type of women. In this case, right here in verse 3, is an harlot. Right? So let's go to verse 3. It says, "Meet not with an harlot, lest thou fall unto her snare." It says, "Meet not with an harlot, lest thou fall into a snare." A harlot is like a woman that's loose, right? A whoremonger, right? And let's go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 26 and verse 26. But and before I touch on that, and another point that I wanted to make is sometimes your husband at a point where he can afford this pair of shoe, but he cannot afford that pair of shoe. But he cannot afford, like I see, like Louis Vuitton or whatever brand name that you may like, but they be able to afford something that is affordable, that is cheaper. If he brings it, by any means wear it. Because if you don't wear it, what's that doing to that man is insulting his manhood, right? You wear it, even if you don't like it, you pretend for the time being until the Most High bless you, and he can afford to get you more things, right? So that's an advice based on what Sirach is bringing, because what that does is it encourages him. Right?
Verse, what verse we at?
That's we still at verse 2. Right? That's encouraging him, right, to do better. Instead of complaining about how much you don't like what he gets you, encourage him, right, so that he gets better and better, so he can get mature financially. Maybe later on down the line, right, he can afford to give you another pair of shoes that is more desirable to you. Right? And by insulting the men, we're gonna go to Proverbs 22 and 14 before we get to. Now let's go to Ecclesiasticus first, 26 and verse 26. Ecclesiasticus chapter 26 and verse 26. Ecclesiasticus chapter 26 in verse 26 reads, "A woman that honoreth her husband shall be judged wise of all." So if he bring you something, honor it, right? Be grateful for it. Honor him. And if you don't like the item, by encouraging him, he's gonna do better, right? Instead of complaining how the stove, I don't like the stove, I don't like this house, I don't like, instead of complaining, encouraging him, right? So that he can do better, and pray that encourages him in a sense of spiritual sense. I'm talking to the righteous woman now, right? In a sense of, he'll get better if you say the Most High, hopefully one day the Most High can bless us where we can afford, something that is better. We're gonna pray, we're gonna work it out. Encourage that man instead of putting pressure on him, right, to get something right down in there. And by not utilize the thing that he bought, put a dent in his manhood, right? And let me read it again in verse 26. It says, "A woman that honoreth her husband shall be judged wise of all, but she that dishonoreth him in her pride shall be counted ungodly of all." All right, so that was Ecclesiastes chapter 26 in verse 26. Also, let's read verse 3 now. Let's move on to verse 3.
Right. So to go to verse 2, you can go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 33. Ecclesiasticus chapter 33.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 33.
Because keep in mind again, this chapter is written to men to pay attention to themselves.
Right.
Right. It's not so much what the righteous woman is doing, what the wicked woman is doing. This is what a man needs to be aware of. That's why it says, give not thy soul unto a woman. Whether she's a righteous woman, you are never supposed to give your soul over to that woman. Meaning you now are at her beck, right? You are now subject to her. That's what happens when a person gives their soul over to something, whether it's to Satan or whatever. You are now falling under them. Right. So men are never to give their soul over to another woman. Now it's going to even take it higher. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 33, verse 9. It says, give not thy son and wife, thy brother and friend, power over thee while thou livest, and give not thy goods to another, lest it repent thee, and thou entreat for the same again, right? So even if it's your children, your son, you're not supposed to give your power over to them, right? If it's your wife, your friend, your brother, it says don't give your power over to anyone. And then just give all your substance over to someone. And then later on, you find it yourself that you're in a worse position now. And now you got to go back and ask for the same thing or beg for the same thing that you had now just given away. Right? Then it says in verse 20, as long as thou livest and hast breath in thee, give not thyself over to anybody. Right? So as long as you live in men, make sure that you do not give yourself over. That meaning you give your power, soul, spirit, whatever, so that now you under somebody else. Right? That's always the prerequisite. So it's the same thing when we in the truth, and you see in certain schools, certain men give themselves over to some other man. Right? They'll say, yeah, I'm under this man. And now that man has power and control over you. That man tells your wife, listen, your wife need to come over here and do this. It sounds strange and funny, but that's what happened in the past. That's what happened in the truth with some brothers because they didn't follow this. Remember, this is not just written to somebody who's out in the world. This is written to brothers who are in the truth. They know the ordinance, but they got to make sure that they guard their spirit, that they don't give that over to somebody else because we've seen it happen. So, and this God we're reading in 9, which says, don't give your soul over to another woman. He comes back and says, don't give your power over to anybody. Right. Make sure that you always guarding your soul under Yahweh Shai and the Most High. If there's a brother who's righteous, you can be arm in arm with that brother. Arm in arm. If you got someone who's a master or a teacher or leader over you, fine. Now let that brother bring you up. But don't give your soul over to that brother where you had it where now you know that this brother is not doing according to what Yahweh shall say. But because you've given yourself over to him, you allow him to just walk all over you and do what he wants. No, can't do that.
Right. So going back to what we said earlier, and fear of losing her can cause you to do things that you ought not to do, right? And we know that we should only fear the Most High. Fear the Most High and keep his commandment, for this is the whole duty of men. Right? So not fear of losing her because you give yourself over. You love her so much to the point where you're losing your wit, right? So that you can keep her. Right? So let's go back to verse 3. All right, verse 3. It says, meet not with an harlot, lest thou fall into her snare. Because an harlot doesn't have any intention of a relationship, right? They out to, because it's a habit that they develop. They don't know how to stay with a man. They just come in, get what they want, and leave, right? And we can see that in the music industry and other industries where the harlot is looking for a ball player, right? It's not even about the man and for who the man is and what he stands for. More so, oh, he's a ball player, so he has money, right? The intent itself is off. So by having that intent, and the man who fall for that, you may end up having to give off most of your asset that you work hard for many years, right? So, so men, you have to be very circumspect to not give yourself to a harlot or anybody. As a matter of fact, as Kahan Samak is bringing it out.
Right. It said don't even meet with a harlot.
Right.
Don't even sit down with a harlot, especially if you know that that's their motives or their intentions, because they have very good devices. Right. They have very good mannerisms and things to bring your whole guard down. Right? You like, I'm a man of the Most High. You know, like, that whole out of here. You see, ain't got nothing on me. Right. And then you go sit down there and you thinking that you so big and bad and high and mighty, and she now with the bat of an eye or the way she walk or just with smooth words or about her apparel, about her tone of her voice, all of that now becomes alluring. Right. And you like, she ain't that bad. Right. She's not that bad. And then what happens? You later on get caught in her snare. Right. Right? They have a certain power to do the things that they're doing. So the best wisdom is don't even go meet with them. Don't go sit down with them. The only time that you can say you want to go meet with them, if you're now out there, you teaching, you rebuking. Right. But just go down and sit down and just have casual conversation, like you breaking bread, you drinking wine, or you doing something with them. No. Right. You're gonna get caught out there. Right. More times out of not, you're gonna now lay down your guard, and you in the world, it's evident. It's not that even they go to the place where the harlots are. They go to the strip clubs. They go to the blocks and then where they at. And what happens? They go and pick one up. Mm-hmm. And now you'll see a lot of these athletes or celebrities. They go and get the quote unquote Instagram models, which they're really whores because they're jumping around from athlete, celebrity to star to just try to get that come up, like you mentioned. They get that come up. Once they get that come up, they find out what? Oh man, I'm dealing with a whole bunch of hell now. Right. Right? Because she really wasn't a worthy or righteous woman. Right? She was looking for a come up. Now she's talking about this, that, and the third. I'm breaking up with her. Now I gotta pay her child support. Mm-hmm. I gotta pay her alimony. Mm-hmm. Right? Because now she was with me for 6 months. Mm-hmm. And now the judge saying because I gave her a Louis bag or this or that, now I gotta keep her lifestyle up. I gotta pay her all this money. What the hell I done got myself into? Right. You done got caught in the snare.
Right. So let's go to Proverbs 22 and 14.
$22.
22 and verse 14. Right, this is what we're talking about here. They have the device, right? They got the device because a harlot is a professional, right? That's their profession, right? And granted, it's a wicked profession, but it is a profession. It is something that they pretty much mastered, right? On how to do it, how to get men right into their whip, right? So chapter 22 in verse 14 says, the mouth of a strange woman is a deep pit. He that is above of the Lord shall fall therein. So if you're not in the laws of the Most High, there's no way you can escape, right? The mouth of a harlot or a strange woman, because she's really good at what she does, right? Like Kahan Samak brings out, it brings your guard down. So if it's not about teaching while you're out there, I can't. Don't even entertain being around a harlot. Right? And we're going to see more examples and read more scriptures that will illustrate that point. And those are laws, right, on dealing with women and being a man of the Most High and getting those advice on how to stay your ground as a man to not give yourself over. So let's read Ecclesiastes now 7:26 or link up with the same Ecclesiastes chapter 9 and 3. Ecclesiastes chapter 7 and verse 6. And it is important to know these things as men of the Most High, because the very first companion or helpmate that we have was a woman. Right? When Adam was shown all the things that the Most High created, but there was not one that fit to be with him as a helpmate. Right? So that's why it's important to really know these things. And at the end, we're going to see the conclusion of why it's important and why it is important for the men and the women to dwell together, but in harmony according to the purpose of the Most High. Right? Verse chapter 7 and verse 26. 26, come on. And it says, and I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snares and nets, and her hands as bends. Whoso pleaseth God shall escape from her, but the sinner shall be taken by her. Right? So it's a scripture to outline. It says, more whose heart is a snare. So her mind is a snare. So whatever she try to say, and it's gonna be hard for you to not buy it if you're not a man of the Most High. And sometimes you could be a man of the Most High. You find yourself in the wrong place at the wrong time. If it's not intentionally, the Most High will save you from her. Right? But if it's intentional, don't think you're gonna get away, because she's good at what she does. Another one on this is Proverbs 5 and verse 3. Proverbs chapter 5. Proverbs 5 and verse 3 says, for a dream cometh to the multitude of business, and a fool's voice is known by multitudes of words. Right? In much talking, you're gonna find out who's really, what is she saying, right? Where you at? Is sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. Sorry. Proverbs 5 and 3. Right, Proverbs 5. It's a lot. Proverbs 5 and verse 3. And it reads, for the lips of a strange woman drop as in honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil. So it smooth you out. Right? You could be as strong as you think you are, your guard's gonna be down. Once she's done talking to you all that stuff, that's it, you're done. Right? By the time you buy everything that she done put into your mind and in your brain, you conceive sin, which leads to death. Right? For the lips of a strange woman drop as in honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil. All right? So be mindful to not entertain any harlots. right? You can teach if you're out there at camp, but to just go for the fun of it and say, let me see what she's about, you're gonna find out quickly what she's really about. All right, so let's read verse 4 now. Verse 4 says, use not much company of a woman that is a singer, lest thou be taken with her attempt. So it's the same thing. Everything about them, the singers, the women singers, can get a man down fast as you may think, because they can sing to you, right? And everything is about fantasy. They can make you imagine all the great things that you want in life, and they the one that can provide it. Right? You can see that when you hear those R&B singers, right? You get all emotional listen to that song, those songs. Right? So you got to be mindful of that. It says again, use not much company of a woman that is a singer, lest thou be taken with her attempts. And verse 5 now. Gaze not on a maid, that thou fall not by those things that are precious in her. And if you can imagine, women, the way the Most High designed them, aesthetically, they are a work of art, right? And he designed them for his purpose, for his greater purpose, right? Not for what is women are being viewed and seen in society, right? So anyone can get fall by a woman. Anyone can fall. That's why it's very important that we stay on our P's and Q's, even as men of the Most High, right? And keep things in perspective and take those advice. Because if we too high-minded thinking we got it, before you know it, you're like, man, what the hell I just did, right? But it happened because we took things for granted. It happened to the greatest men of the Most High, David. Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 11, verse 2. Because the original intent of a woman is not just to lay down, right? It's not just to lay down. If that's the first intent, it's not spiritual, and it's not intellectual, it's not emotional, right? To get to those points first, the first thing is physical, then you're gonna get caught in the snare. And once that physical play in, it's gonna be hard getting to that spiritual, because the conscious keep blocking the spiritual. So you can never attend to that level. That's why the very first thing is to get to know people spiritually, what they're about. Men and women, right? But the focus, once again, is the men, right? Know what the woman is about spiritually first. Intellectually, right? Morally. Know what her purpose is. Interests, right? Motivation. And maybe we might become a mate if those things are, if these things, right, coincide. 2 Samuel chapter 11 and 2. That's what I'm going to go into. It's going to show us an example of even the righteous fall when they slack. Chapter 11 and verse 2. Right, all these things are keys and gems and secrets and codes that Sirach is breaking down, so that men should be prepared to function as they supposed to. Right? So 2 Samuel chapter 11 and verse 2 reads, "And it came to pass in an eventide that David arose from off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house, and from the roof he saw a woman washing herself, and the woman was very beautiful to look upon." So a piece of beautiful work of art, right? She was beautiful to look upon. There's nothing wrong with looking, but when you gaze and you start having thoughts and things that you want to do and this, that, and the third, you can't help to see a beautiful woman out there, right? You can't help to see that. It's gonna happen because the Most High designed them aesthetically to look upon as beautiful, right? The design, the way to design them, but the gazing is what gets us men into trouble, right? But if the gazing was to first spiritually and then intellectually, emotionally, right, get it on that level, but the first thing is the physical, that's already a sin in the making, right? So let's read it again. "And it came to pass in an evening time that David arose from off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house, and from the roof he saw a woman washing herself, and the woman was very beautiful to look upon." That was Bathsheba, right? So now, and what happened at that thing, and let me add that, and it was around the time when kings go out to war, right? What happened? David stayed back, neglecting his work, what he's supposed to be doing. So and go and lay back, and there come trouble. In the time of idleness, right? Things do happen, so you got to be mindful of idleness. And when you have time in your hand, Satan can come and occupy that void in your mind, because Satan operates where there's darkness, right? Whenever there's darkness, Satan is right that in it. You always got to be ready and be on your guard at any time, any moment, any day, right, to defend yourself against the wicked. And that's David right there, got caught off guard.
This is Matthew chapter 5, verse 28.
Matthew chapter 5 and verse 28.
It says, "But I say unto you, that whosoever looketh upon a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart." So it doesn't even have to be a physical act. Now, Yahweh made it so that if you're in your mind thinking about it, it's as if you already committed the act in a manner so that you can refrain or constrain yourself, your thoughts, from even thinking about those things before you even act upon it.
Right. It's like a woman don't think that she is pregnant. She is pregnant. The baby comes after, but the baby already conceived in the womb, right? What we see is the baby come out, but they don't think they pregnant. Okay, I am pregnant. So the sin is already conceived in the mind and then comes out in the form of the sin that is projected out there in the physical. All right, so let's go to Matthew chapter. Oh, you read that, right? You read that, right? 5:28. Come on. Now let's go to James 1 and 15. James 1 and 15. Kahanabia pointed that out. Feast of Tabernacle, and that's an excellent scripture to pretty much hone in on what we're bringing out. James chapter 1 and verse 15. James chapter 1 and verse 15 reads, then when the lusts are when we gaze, right? When we gaze, our brain pretty much get impregnated, right, with the gaze.
James 5.
James chapter 1, verse 5, verse 15. Yeah, chapter 1, verse 15. And it says, then when lust have conceived, right? Lust conceived. Familiar with a woman being conceived, right? That's when she gets pregnant, right? The same way the brain can get conceived, right? It says, then and that's why Yahushua referred to teaching the word is like the planting of seeds, because the seeds get planted right here, and then it grows, right? It says, when the lust have conceived, it bringeth forth sin. It bringeth forth sin. Sin is pretty much the progenitor of the lust that was already there, growing just like the baby grow in the mother's womb, right? It's just waiting for the time, enough time, then it will appear, right? It says it bringeth forth sin, and sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death. So the wages of sin is death. Right? So when the sin comes, it's a done deal, right? Then you're gonna get the recompense for that sin. But all started by the brain being impregnated with thoughts of gazing, right? All right, and if in verse 16 it says, do not err, my beloved brethren. So do not make that mistake, because what you see out there, right, that's already in the making, was already there in the mind before before you see it in the physical. Right. So also let's go to Psalm 24 and 4, just to show how David's character was, right? And for him to be fallen into that situation, it just show you how serious, right, this is. Right. So let's go to Psalm 24 and 4. This is all linking up to verse 5. Psalm 24 and verse 4 reads, this is a psalm of David, right? It says, he that have clean hands and a pure heart, who have not lifted up his soul unto vanity, nor sworn deceitfully, right? So this is David talking, right? How those are the kind of men that he will put out of his house. Here we go. He fall into that trap. So keep in mind, no one is exempt, right? At one point, he was very adamant and serious about it, but he himself, he fell. Right? Not by this one, but he fell by women, by the trap. Right? So that was Psalm 24 and verse 4. And you can read that verse to see how serious David was about the Most High. Right? How he understood the Most High's keys and codes and laws. But yet him is not exempt from these things, because these things are principles. And principles are the first rules of things, right? This is the rules on dealing with women. As men, those are the rules. Also, go to Psalm 101 and verse 7. Psalm 101 and verse 7. Psalm 101 and verse 7 in verse 7 reads, Psalm 101 in verse 7, again, a Psalm of David, right? He that worketh deceit shall not dwell within my house. He that telleth lies shall not tarry in my sight. So this is how serious he was about others, right? But yet, he himself, he fell in the trap. So don't think you are too good and you know the scriptures too well. You are a mighty Israelite, man, that know the law, that know how to break down scriptures, thinking that you cannot fall by one of these things, except you got to always be on your guard. And last one on this is 1 Corinthians chapter 10. So this is the type of manner of men that David was, and he was very serious, and the Most High called him a man after his own heart. First Corinthians chapter 10, in verse 11 and 12. Right? And it reads, let me write it down. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, 11, 12. And it reads, now all these things happen unto them for examples, and they are written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the world are come. 12. Wherefore, let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall. So those are gems, those are secret things that are in the Bible. Those are codes that the Most High unlocked in the scriptures for us. Whereas we made a comment the other day, you can have the Bible, but unless you have the keys to unlock the safe deposit box, is of no use to you, right? So that's why Yahushua give those gems, right? Give those gems to the people that when he was speaking in parable, but to the disciple, he was speaking plainly. But to them, they were hidden things. So we had access to those. We have access to these things, right? So let's go on. Proverb, Ecclesiasticus, back in the Apocrypha, chapter 9, and verse 6. Give not thy soul unto harlots, that thou lose thine inheritance. Give not thy soul unto harlots, that thou lose thy inheritance. Right? So do not give yourself to prostitution, or you may lose your inheritance. It goes to the same way we said you get to with a harlot or a prostitute, she's a professional, and you end up losing everything that you work for, right? By paying alimony and child support. Right? This is how it happened in this system, right? And we see it, and the examples are right before our eyes, and the life full of stories of men, on child support.
Not only just money, but your name.
Con.
You get a stain on your name that you was dealing with some whore and got caught up or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Whereas that should have been avoided.
Right. Right. And if they don't have nothing to gain from you, like I said, your name, right? Or you might end up in jail for many years saying that, you raped me. Just because she thought she was going to get something, she ain't get nothing, and then she's a professional. Right? And you end up spending the rest of your life, or a good portion of your life, or you in behind bars, right? Fault of misjudgment. So let's go to Proverbs 6 and 23. Proverbs chapter 6 and verse 23. Proverbs chapter 6 and verse 23. For the commandment is a lamp, and the law is light, and reproof for instruction are the way of life. If you want to have the keys to life, follow the commandment, keep the commandments, keep the laws, right? Follow these instructions, right? Who are illustration and examples of the process of unlocking keys of dealing with women and in life, period. For the men, right? For the commandment is a lamp. A lamp help you see, right, where there's darkness. And the law is light, right? Light, right, allows you again to walk broad day without falling, without stumbling, or without, knocking on things, right? The law gives you a straight way or a clean path so you know where you're going. And reproof of instruction are the way of life. To keep thee from the evil women, from the evil woman, right? I'm going to read all the way to 25. For to keep thee from the evil woman, from the flattery of the tongue of a strange woman. 25. Lust not after her beauty in thine heart, neither let her take thee with her eyelid. Okay? No, 25. 26. For by means of a whorish woman, a man is brought to a piece of bread. And the adulterers will hunt for the precious life. Hunt. So they eat you, they reduce you to a piece of bread. Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's their thing. It's professionals. Now let's read verse 7. Look not around about thee in the street of the city, neither wander thou in the solitary place. Right? So I remember when we were, when I was younger, and with no sense, I was lost. My thing was, you wash your car and clean it up, and you just go for a ride. You're not going anywhere. You're just taking a ride. You're driving, knowing that the world is full of wickedness. You're driving to find trouble, and usually you drive by. As soon as you see a female walk by that looks attractive, hey, shorty. So you pretty much going and trying to catch something, but usually you out there, seeking for trouble. Now that we know that, but before, right, we just go out there. We think that's what that's what men's do, right? Here you are. You have no plans of being out there. But you just go for a drive, right? You just go, just cruising the streets. Cruising the streets and put gas in your car, you just driving. And call your friends. What you doing? You know, let's go chill. Let's go for a drive. Right? Chasing after young ladies out there. Right? This was the thing. But now, as we read this right here in Ecclesiastes, it says in 7, look not around about thee in the streets, in the city, neither wander thou in solitary, thereof. Right? You want to say something?
Yeah, it's like all of these verses from all the way down to verse 9 is dealing with man and his interactions with women,
right?
His mind state.
Mm-hmm.
So Now it's just getting into a point where you home, you bored, you go find and see what's going on out here. Right. I'm not just gonna take a drive, but your drive is to go see if you find some new catch.
Right.
We go out here and see what new thing walking around here. I'm gonna go in and let me go dip up in this bar in this back corner. Right. Let me go find what I can find, a little hood rat or something, just to go and get yourself into nonsense.
Right.
That's your motive, that's your objections, your intentions to go out there and find a little something.
Right.
And then come back home and that ain't the move.
And that's how it is out there.
Yeah.
Because I can speak on it because that's how in the neighborhood, that's how we were.
Yeah. What we doing, man? Now let's go hit the bars up and hit some little something up and see if we find something.
Or go to the mall. Let's go to the mall because that's where the women they go shopping. So it's easy to they're gonna be out there. So verse 8. And for verse 7, you can write down Jeremiah 5:1. Let me see if that's on point. Jeremiah 5:1, if you actually link up with what we're talking about. Jeremiah 5:1. Right, so this is pretty much on point right here. It says, like we said, things that has been, it is that which shall be, right? So there's no new thing under the sun, right? It's the same wickedness back then, same wickedness now, except and multiply in being diverse, right? It's more diverse, more diversified. You see all kinds of wickedness, but it's the same spirit, right? It says in Jeremiah 5, in verse 1, it says, "Run ye to and fro through the streets of Jerusalem, and see now, and know, and seek in the broad places thereof, if ye can find a man, if there be any that executive judgment that seeketh the truth, and I will pardon it." So when you out there wondering, know that it's easier to get in trouble than to get in something good because the street is full of wickedness. So most likely you out there doing, you have no business being out there. You just out there. Right. Most likely you're gonna get in some type of trouble, right? Because trouble is all around us, right? Problems is all around us because most of the men and women out there, they don't know the law of the Most High. They walking disorderly, right? If they walking disorderly, most than likely your acquaintance or your relation with them most likely gonna be in getting yourself in some trouble if you're not careful, right? And be out there just for the fun of it, right? So let's move on. That was Jeremiah chapter 5 and verse 1. So verse 8, "Turn away thine eyes from a beautiful woman." So again, they keep reiterate beautiful woman, this and the third, right? Because like I said, the Most High create women beautiful for a righteous purpose, not for wicked purposes. Think about Esther in the Bible, right? And what's the other sister name? The one that was beautiful and when I cut the men's head. Judith, right? She was beautiful, but fulfilling the Most High's purpose. Right? Beautiful, but fulfilling the Most High's purpose. So the Most High create women to be beautiful as a work of art, right? For a righteous purpose, not for what we are or society view women, beautiful women as. Right now, woman is beautiful. They offer a contract to get naked, right? As a model, right? Being used in the wrong way, not for what the Most High intended them to be used for, right? It says, "Turn away thine eye from a beautiful woman, and look not upon another's beauty, for many have been deceived by the beauty of a woman, for herewith love is kindled a fire. Right? Turn your eyes away, like from a beautiful woman, meaning shape, look, and the whole aesthetic work. Right? Turn away, because when you keep looking and gazing, then that's when you're gonna start getting yourself into problem.
What chapter you doing? Ezekiel?
No, we're doing Ecclesiasticus chapter 9 and chapter 10. Right now we are chapter 9 in verse 8. It's almost as what, like Job said it, right? You got to make a covenant with your eye. Let's get it. Job 31 and 1. Especially nowadays, women have more device that they use to shape their body. They go to the gym, they work out, their shape is pretty much lustrous, and they enhance, right, the most I already give them, right? They make it even, they shape it as they please, right? So let's go to Job.
No, you're in the wrong book. I mean, you're in the right book.
Chapter 31,
Ecclesiasticus 9.
verse 1.
9.
Now we're in Job.
Like I said, it's more diverse. The spirits is more diverse now, getting involved in more trouble and wickedness, so that you got to be more mindful of what's out there. And as advice is being given to the men, you got to watch out. Job 31 and 1. Job 31 and 1 reads, I made a covenant with mine eyes. Why then should I think upon a maid? So he made a covenant with his eyes to not look upon a beautiful woman in gazing. Right? That was a covenant. He made it a law for himself. He made it a law for himself that that's what he's going to do. To not look upon a maid and lust after her. Meaning looking steadily, intently. So let's go to Ecclesiasticus now. We're going to link Ecclesiasticus. Ecclesiasticus chapter 25 and verse 21.
Say again, Ecclesiasticus.
Yeah, Ecclesiasticus chapter 25 and verse 21. There's a link up to verse 8. It says, stumble not at the beauty of a woman. Do not stumble at the beauty of a woman.
You say 25 and 8, right? Ecclesiasticus.
Right, Ecclesiasticus 25 and verse, I'm sorry, it says Ecclesiasticus 25 and 8 is a link up, 25 and 21 is a link up to Ecclesiasticus 9 and 8. But the chapter we're reading right now is chapter 9, we got verse 8. And it reads, stumble not at the beauty of a woman, and desire her not for pleasure. Desire her not for pleasure. And we see back in 5 when it says you're gonna lose your money and your inheritance. Back then, right? It used to be in the Deuteronomy, you gotta pay the father money. And even if you don't want to be with her, you have to stay with her. Right? You gotta give a diary. Right? If you find a woman, and that you can read that in Deuteronomy 28 and 29 and also in Exodus. Right? That's what that was back then. But today is more so they get pretty much your money, your name get degraded, and whatever asset you have, you stand to lose it, right? If you get yourself in trouble. So that was a
You reminding me now.
right. So that was a reference to verse 5.
Right. This verse is a difficult verse to deal with, to handle and balance, because it says, "Stumble not at the beauty of a woman."
Mm-hmm.
Right. What attracts individuals most times, not all the time, what attracts individuals most times is their surface, meaning they're out of their exterior. You like how he looks, or you like how she looks. You know, I like his eyes, I like his hair, I like whatever it may be. Right. But for the men, it says, "Stumble not at the beauty of a woman." Not that you're not gonna find her beautiful, but don't look at this woman and you stumble and you just forget everything else, and you so fixated on her beauty and her outer appearance, and you don't consider the inner woman. Right? Because all you're mainly doing right now is looking at how beautiful she is, or how certain body parts are accentuated.
Right.
And then in your mind, you're starting to think already, "I want her for pleasure."
Right.
Man, I want to take her down, boy. Woo. Right. And then you are now, your whole objective now is to do whatever it is you need to do in order to go and lay with her. Right. That's what people do in the world. It's like, yo, oh man, I met this chick at the mall. Ooh, she looked good. This is that and third. Yeah, I'm taking her out tonight.
Right.
And in your mind, you saying, "Listen, I'm going to go take her out. I'm going to spend some good money because my objective is to do what? Go and lay with her for pleasure." Right? You don't know much about her. You don't know her family. You don't know, all this. You just go down. You have a little talk. "Yeah, I like this music." And then, you eat. "Oh yeah, what you want to eat? Whatever you want to eat." And then you get drinks. And then it's like, "All right. Now you have to take her back home to my spot. We're going to your spot," right? Because that's all you're desirous about, because of her beauty and what parts accentuate. And then what happens? You done stumble because you now don't know what you just gotten yourself into, and then it could be the trap or the snare.
Could be a trap.
So men would have to make sure that they caution themselves, and except like, yeah, the sister does look good. But I'm not going to stumble and not look past the inner woman to see what type of person she really is, to see if she's really matched for me, to see if she got her head on straight. We don't do all of those things. We just go in, right? And that's our objective. And then once we in, then we start thinking about, well, what kind of person is she? Man, this chick is bugged out of her mind. Let me get the hell out of here. But you can't do that because you done lay with her. You done humbled her already, right? And then now she becomes, like the Most High said, that your wife will be a whore in the city, meaning your wife now, women have now slept with so many different men because they don't apply the rules of the Most High. Right? And now you don't went in after the fact to start thinking about what type of person. Now you don't got yourself caught up. Maybe she get pregnant, maybe she had a disease, you don't know what's going on. And then you find yourself caught up in this situation. So men don't stumble at the beauty of a woman just because she's beautiful.
So on that, let's get
Which this one you talking about? Deuteronomy what?
that was Ecclesiasticus
Yeah, you said something about Deuteronomy.
25 and 21. No, Deuteronomy was just a reference. The reference about what used to happen. Right? Even if you find yourself getting involved with a woman based on looking, and you got desire of her and you lay with her, so you're gonna have to pay.
You had Ecclesiasticus 20, 25, and 8, right?
Ecclesiasticus 25, verse 21.
21.
Chapter 25, verse 21. And this was a link up to Ecclesiasticus 9 and 8. So now we're gonna go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 41, verse 20 to 21. To link up with that same 8 verse.
is it?
Ecclesiasticus
Mm-hmm.
chapter 41, verse 20 to 21.
Just link up with 9 and 8.
Go on.
So Deuteronomy,
Hold on for a second. How you say that word? Excuse me. Where you got that verse from you just said?
What?
You said this one here is kind of
The one that he provided?
the one that you find.
No, I just reread what he read.
What you read?
Ecclesiastes 25:21. That's what we've been just saying for the past 7 minutes. The same verse.
25, 21.
Go on. So let's go to Ecclesiasticus 41 now, verse 20 to 21.
Never mind. Okay. Say that one more time.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 41, verse 20 to verse 21. And it reads. So pretty much, Sirach pretty much also was, you can find the same viewpoint that he has on chapter 9 and verse 25. If you read chapter 29 and 25, you also get the understanding of where he's coming from. Because those are things that he hated, right? So one of the things that he hated, right, and we should be ashamed of, in verse 21 and 20 and 21 will tell you. It says, and of silence before them that salute thee, and to look upon in harlot. Those are things that we should be ashamed of, to look upon in harlot, right? That's the thing that he was hateful of. And to turn away thy face from thy kinsman, or to take away a portion or a gift, or to gaze upon another man's wife. Gaze upon another man's wife. Okay, so let's read verse 9 now. Ecclesiasticus chapter 9, verse 9. It says, sit not at all with another man's wife. This is the link up that we just pulled right here, right? Sit not at all with another man's wife, nor sit down with her in thine arms, and spend not thine money with her at the wine, lest thine heart incline into her, and so to thy desire thou fall into destruction. No matter how cool you are with a man, right, or a brother, never spend time with another man's wife, right? And not only spend time, like to spend time is like you taking her out. What you doing taking another man's wife out? Or we gonna go for a dinner? We cool like that, right? Yeah, me and him, we cool like that, and she's okay with it, and you know we gonna go out. Don't you ever put that in mind, right? Especially when you go out, is what you shouldn't be doing, right? I mean, you're not supposed to be going out to begin with, right? And it tells you what not to do with a man's wife, right? Like you kick back, you relaxing, and you having a drink with another man's wife. The intention may not have been there to begin with, but you get intoxicated with the wine, your mind just switch, and then all kind of thoughts starts coming. You forget that you had long relationship with your friend and things like that. We go way back. All that is out the door, just on few sip of the wine. So now you desire that man's wife. All right, it says, and so through thine desire thou fall into destruction. Not only that, you get yourself killed. Right? not by the man, or by the man, and also the punishment of the Most High, because the wages of sin is death. Right?
That's why they call it wine and spirits.
Kind of.
You went in with one intention, and all of a sudden you start drinking that wine. By the second glass, third glass,
Right.
You're not soberly minded anymore. Now you're looking in her eyes. Y'all talking to each other. And now your whole perspective start thinking, man, she got some pretty eyes.
Right.
Right. Starts off with the pretty eyes, and then it goes to the next thing and the next thing, and now all of a sudden you start now lusting after another man's wife.
Right.
At the wine or at the yak or whatever it may be, at the strong drink, and then it goes left.
Right. And she's intoxicated also. Yeah. You both lose your judgment.
Yeah.
Right. And you when it says right here in verse the same verse, the ends of it, it says, then it is, oh, thou shalt drink it. Hold on. Okay, let me the ends of it, it says, and so through thy desire thou fall into destruction. And you remember back then, you sleep with another man's wife, it was you get put to death. Right? You get put to death. Not only, the Most High gets you, but you get put to death. This was the pretty much the gist of it. So you didn't want to get caught up out there in the situation and get put to death just because you just go out and have a drink and then your mind turns and you fall into something like that. That was a sin punishable by death.
Right, and to put it in proper context, right? It's not, because it says sit not at all with another man's wife. And it's not to say, let's just say a man and his wife has some issues. Right. Like the brother's going off. Right. He's doing all kind of crazy stuff. And the wife comes to a priest to kind of say, listen, my husband is doing certain things affecting the family. Now you sitting with her, counseling with her about personal issues that now affects the family. That's cool because that needs to happen. It's not talking about that. This is talking about just casual. We're just going to go sit down and have, chill, kick it. Like we're about to go listen to some music and just kick it. Right. We're about to go talk about this new movie. And you just now alone with her, just sitting, it becomes like a thing. Right. Where y'all just cool like that, where y'all just sitting at odds, just always talking. Nah, don't do that.
Don't do that.
It says, nor sit with her in your arms. Right. Like now she may come to you about something.
Crying and get emotional.
And now you know how they say in the figurative sense, I'll be your shoulder to cry on.
Right.
She's literally crying on your shoulder. Like she's on your shoulder, wrapped around you. Now she's arms around you, and you like, dang, she's kind of grabbing me a little, make me feel kind of comfortable with it. Nah, don't do that. Right? Casual, cavalier, someone now is coming in and inviting that space. That's what you don't want to do. Right. Even when somebody comes and they say, listen, they want to come talk to you, if it's another man's wife, because of how this is written, because of the warning, you yourself are on guard.
Right.
You got to be on guard and be like, you know what? I'm going to listen to what the sister has to say, or the man's wife has to say, but I'm now cautious because I've been forewarned that a spirit could come on you.
Right.
So I have to keep it only about, issues that's at hand. And now it's not going to go into, all right, we done talked about what we want to talk about. All right, now let's just kick it. No, we're not kicking it. Right? Unless your husband here, I'm not just calling up somebody else's sister, somebody else's wife, and we just conversing unless they're not there.
Right.
Right? That's not going to happen because you got to keep that respectable.
Right. And she comes in and having issues. He said, now let's go to the restaurant over there. Well, we're gonna talk about it.
I'll meet you down at Marlowe's. We're gonna sit and have a glass of wine. I'm gonna tell you what's going on.
Right.
No, before we go listen, we ain't drinking nothing.
Right.
We can talk right now here. We can talk. Matter of fact, I might have my wife here with me.
Right.
Whatever.
Right. There's no, we're gonna chill out, man. I'm stressed out. I need to get out and I need to talk to you about something, let's go to the bar real quick, so I can, because right now, I'm losing my head. And here we are, say, yeah, let's go. Just meet me over here. You gotta go at the wine. She's gonna get emotional. She's gonna drink. Next thing you know, we both lose our judgment. Next thing leads to the other. Boom, that's it. Punishable by death. Right? So as you can see, this is great advice that is being given here. And this is timeless. And this is on relationship, right? This is another aspect of advice on men dealings with women, and also some piece of it on relationship. Verse 9. Sit not at all. That was verse 10 now. Forsake not an old friend. So now we're gonna switch to another piece of advice on friendship. So we pretty much finish with women, and right. So I mean, in conclusion to this chapter right here, I just wanted to say this: the women and the men are intended to be an interdependent team, right? Not how women are being viewed or men are being viewed in society. And that's how men should look upon women, especially of the nation of Israel, right? We are supposed to be an interdependent team, right? One partner, the male would be focused on purpose. The man must have a purpose, and the purpose must be, you know where you're going, right? That's your purpose. Know where you're going. Know that you're heading for a kingdom, right? And here's the manner of men I should be to be a king, right, in Israel. That should be the man's purpose, right? And the woman would focus on relationships, how to anchor the family down so we can rule together, right, in that kingdom. So that should be the main purpose, the helpmeet, right, to hold down the family, right, on her part, right, and also be an aesthetic work of art, right, and the man would be a utility, a force, right, to keep things down, to keep things up and rule in the kingdom of the Most High. So this should be the purpose in the grand purpose of the Most High. Not to look upon women to lust after her and for pleasure, right? But for the purpose of the Most High to multiply. Because if you can imagine a woman, and when I look at the Catholic Church, how they, put Mary in a high regard, right? And to the point worship her. Mary is not the source. Yahushua is the source. The man is the source. The woman is not supposed to be marginalized in the same way, right? We're supposed to work as a team to make the Most High's purpose happen, right? Which is ruling in the kingdom of the Most High with all the laws given to us by the Most High, right? So this should be the ultimate purpose of why the woman is a partner to the man who is the ruler or the king. Example, the woman is a source of multiplication, right? If you give the woman seeds, she will give you babies or give you spirit beings, right, to replenish, to populate the earth. In essence, in our case, to bring rulers, more rulers, right? You give a seed, she gives you, offsprings. You give her a home, she can turn it into a beautiful home to come to, right? In the sense of a righteous woman, right? So it's to work together interdependently, right, to make sure that things work according to God's purpose, to fulfill the Most High's purpose here, to bring heaven on earth here, for things to work in order. Right? So she's receive and give back. She receive and give back. She doesn't keep anything. Right? Because she is not the source. So bow down to Virgin, quote unquote Virgin Mary, right? Is idol worshiping. Let's go to Ecclesiasticus 25:1. Ecclesiasticus 25:1 will pretty much summarize what I just said here.
Yeah, it's 25:1.
Come on. Ecclesiasticus chapter 25 and verse 1. And a man should make sure that he understood himself, stand in the commandments of the Most High, right? Before he should even think of sharing himself with another person. Especially also the women should do likewise. So both should understand their purpose, right? Their motivation and interest in life before they even share themselves. Because you should be able to stand alone, know who you are, right? Be whole within yourself. Be whole mean know yourself where you stand spiritually, intellectually, emotionally, right? Have a good sense of yourself before jumping into relationship with anyone. And that's going vice versa, both men and women. Because while you trying to figure yourself out and you getting involved with somebody, entangled with somebody, she's trying to figure herself out. It's a whole mess. Verse 25:1. In 3 things I was beautified and stood up beautiful both before God and men, right? Both before God and men. Listen to this, right? It says, the unity of brethren, the love of neighbors, a man and wife that agree together, right? A man and wife that agree together. So the whole premise of what I just said pretty much summarized right there. All right, so that's Ecclesiasticus 25:1. So that's why it's very important that we put these things in perspective. And when dealing with women, men, just because somebody go to church and say they read the Bible, we instantly is a match. Sometimes we can fall into that, mistake. You gotta really spend the time to know each other based on more spiritual level first before the physical. Right? And if a man doesn't know where he's going, what his purpose is, or a woman doesn't know, that's going to be a big problem. Because if you don't know your purpose, then you lost, like we were once lost, then it's like a relationship that's just going to be very rocky. Not to say that everything's going to be well and there's going to be challenges, but if at least those little things got sorted out, at least, the basics, the foundation is laid. So now let's touch on friends. Proverb 26, Proverb 12 and 26. On the first verse, we're going to link up the first verse with Proverb 12 and 26. And let me read that first verse in Ecclesiasticus chapter 10 and verse 1. You know what? Before we do that, let's take a break.
Proverbs what?
We're going to take a break. We'll get back on that. So hold on to Proverb. We'll take a recess. Right now, it's 12:46. Probably get back at 1:15. All right. So stay tuned. All right. So those are great topics. And we're glad that the Most High can give us the insight through Sirach and understanding, right, on bringing out those verses so that we can learn from and keep. All right. So stay tuned.
You're on Proverbs when you come back.
So we're going to talk about friendship when we get back. And that's another one. See, this is all about relationship, right? First, relationship with the women and how we should, and men should behave or use the rules and regulations applied to that. Now we're going to go to friendship. All that has to do with relationship.